case concerning the Fire Island. I will be delivering the first half of the respondent submission in the next 11 minutes regarding, first, Rascalia's presence in the Fire Island has always been lawful, and second, Rascalia has sovereignty over the Fire Island. My co-counsel, Ms. Asha, will then deliver the second part of the submission in the next 11 minutes. Your Excellency, I would also like to allocate 3 minutes at the end for the sub-rebuttal. And if it may please the court, I would like to rebut some of the claims made by the agents of the applicant before proceeding with my submission. The first thing that the agents of the applicant have stated is that Rascalia has established illegal economic contract with the Fire Island. I would like to say that the economic contract that has been made and established with the Fire Island is not illegal, as it had been made at the time of the vacuum of power that had happened in the year 1977, as it stated.
So just one question is how do you acquire sovereignty or a certain degree of control over Fire Island?
In this case, for the Democratic Republic of Rascalia, the way of acquiring sovereignty is by occupation, which has to fulfill both the requirements needed.
What requirements needed?
The two basic elements of the acquiring of the sovereignty is the first, an intention or will to act as sovereign, and second, the adequate exercise or display of sovereignty.
Is this based on any judicial decisions or principles of international law?
This is based from the Eastern Greenland case, but please bear in mind, Your Excellency, that the point from the Eastern Greenland case is only acts as a subsidiary law.
Counsel,
Yes?
I'm interested in knowing your position. So, when there was a vacuum of power, as you said before, who can act or speak on behalf of this Fire Island people in concluding the treaty?
There is, at the time of the vacuum of power, there was no one who can speak on the behalf of the Fire Island.
So the treaty was concluded between your state and non-legal entity?
And the local owners of the industries in
What
the
is
Fire
the
Island.
status of these local owners of the industries? What are their nationalities?
The nationalities is native Fire Islanders at that time. And then the second thing that applicants have claimed is that Rascalia should withdraw from the Fire Island as stated in the resolution number A/res/33/14A. I would like to state that the resolution by the UN General Assembly is only a recommendation. It is up to Rascalia whether or not it wants to comply, although there would be consequences if it were ignored.
But the wording of that resolution is quite blatant, in fact, quite clear. I mean, it states that your state has violated Article 2, Paragraph 4 of the UN Charter. So how do you respond to that? My point is, it doesn't sound like a recommendation at all.
In addition to that, also you said something about if it is ignored, then there will be consequences. I'm interested. What consequences that comes out from the ignorance?
First of all, regardless of the wording of the resolution, a resolution that has been passed by the UN General Assembly is still only a recommendation. And secondly, regarding Your Excellency's question, the consequences that I have spoken of was to be treated or viewed lowly by the other states. Your Excellency, the presence of the Democratic Republic of Rascalia has always been lawful, as it has fulfilled the requirements needed for occupational sovereignty requirement, as stated in the Eastern Greenland case in the year 1933. Sovereignty can be acquired through various ways, and in this case is occupation. In order for the Democratic Republic of Rascalia to gain such sovereignty, according to the requirement that has been laid down by the Permanent Court of International Justice, it has to fulfill two basic elements. Firstly, an intention or will to act as sovereign, and secondly, the adequate exercise or display of sovereignty.
Okay. Before we move on further into that, I think you have to respond to the applicant's earlier contention that by that time, the applicant had not, in fact, relinquished their part of the sovereign power in that territory. How do you respond to that?
Pardon me, by relinquishing me.
By relinquishing means giving away.
You give up of the sovereignty.
Giving up, yeah.
The sovereignty over Pyre Island that was owned by Azuria was lost the moment it left Pyre Island.
Why is that the case?
Why is that the case? Yeah.
Because at that time there was no one to exercise the display of.
Let's go back to 15th century when there were not a lot of states in the world during discovery era. And do you think it makes sense for the law to draw the line when you abandon and when you continuously exercise sovereign power by stating that as soon as you left that island and you lost your sovereignty over that island? Does it make sense to do that, considering the size of the earth by that time, world population, and is it possible for you to put everyone in basically every island, right? Indonesia alone, we don't put people, that it is not the case that everyone lives in every island. But do we say that we abandoned that island?
Pardon me, Your Excellency, but I am here on behalf of the Republic of Australia, not Australia.
I understand. I'm trying to make a point that when Azuria left the island, it doesn't necessarily mean that they abandoned the sovereign power, simply because there's no one saying it. All Azurian people. Yeah.
They lost their sovereignty by not exercising the display of sovereignty. Just by not doing that, their sovereignty is lost. Good afternoon, Your Excellencies. I am Asha Arif, second agent representing the respondent in the case concerning the Pyre Island. I will be delivering the following second half of the respondent's submissions in the next 11 minutes regarding Azuria's refusal to hand over Mr. Franz Dexter to Australia is constituted as a violation of international legal obligations. Before I deliver my submission, I would like to rebut an African statement, which is terrorism is included into political crime. Your Excellencies, based on Article 2, the International Convention for the Suppression of Terrorist Bombings, that any person who commits offenses such as detonates an explosive against public places is called terrorist or offender. In fact, as stated in paragraph 17 compromise, that there are several great attacks that was believed to be planned by an MIP and interpolitical teams.
Chronology. So my question will be, in a blatant way, with regard to the standard of the Convention on terrorist bombing, suppression of terrorist bombing, did the Convention stipulate whether to determine the political nature of a crime or whether it's a terrorist attack, one should then determine the preliminary evidence or the final result of the court verdict? Because only then we can determine whether we should extradite or not.
To decide whether there is political crime or not
We can extradite, but but you need to exercise jurisdiction first. I mean that you are not extraditing before you determine that it is a political crime. You understand the problem here?
Your Excellencies, we are asking Azuria to hand over Mr. Franz Dexter because according to International Convention for the Suppression of Terrorist Bombings, that he commit a terrorist act, or if the term of terrorist attack itself is not sure whether it's political act or not, we can still accuse him for crime against humanity, for since what he has done can be accounted as murder that directed against any civilian population.
Does international oblige a state to extradite a person in that event, in the event that that person commits crimes against humanity?
Well, in the treaty between Australia and Azuria, the exception for the extradition is those who commit political crime. And if we cannot charge him on political crime, in which political crime is political crime, terrorism can be considered as acts of political crime, we can still charge him as crime against humanity, and crime against humanity, of course, included into those criminal that can be extradited.
I think to summarize, we can refer to the public statement, right, of Rascalia, which exhibited a lot of powerful emotions, like to capture Rascalia's most wanted terrorist. Mr. Van Dexter has committed very serious crimes in Rascalia, which claimed hundreds of lives. So I asked for the return of Mr. Van Dexter to the territory. In a way, it sounds like Rascalia is ready to punish Mr. Van Dexter in the cruelest way possible, like a revenge.
In the most arbitrary way possible.
Like taking a revenge.
You can answer.
Well, it is stated in the compromise paragraph 27 that we have no any provision of death penalty under its laws. So I think
But violations of a person's due process does not necessarily, have to be death penalty. It can be a lot of other things, like the absence of the denials of attorney. What else?
Due process.
Yeah, the violations of due process.
Your Excellencies, my conclusion is what Mr. Van Dexter and MIP have done are not categorized as political crime. They can be categorized as crime against humanity and offenses or terrorism that should be handled by domestic law. And Azuria has the obligation to hand over Mr. Van Dexter, or else Azuria will have fulfilled its obligation to international legal obligation. Your Excellencies, this is the end of the respondent submission. Should there be no further inquiry, I will proceed to my seat. Will you please take